Throughout our health education series, we have looked at what I consider to be the most important components of a program designed to give us good health. It includes our maintaining good body composition, good nutrition, and excellent fitness. We now move to what is a much more complex and difficult topic, the problem of our exposure to things that are toxic to our bodies, which can prevent our living long and productive lives. It is a difficult topic to discuss because things that are toxic can come from both external sources, like smoke or alcohol, and from internal sources like too much insulin or thyroid hormone or very high triglyceride blood levels. As I've often said, you can have perfect body composition, perfect nutrition, and perfect fitness, but if your spouse slips a little arsenic in your morning cup of coffee each day, you will not enjoy a long and productive life. We'll make an effort in this video and in the ones to follow to discuss the most common poisons that afflict us human beings and how we can avoid them. In this video, we'll discuss the most important substances that come from external sources, things outside our bodies. And in the next video, we will look at some of the internally generated substances that can harm us. By far the greatest human toxins of the past couple hundred years are combustion products arising from the smoking of cigarettes, cigars, and pipes. Tobacco is the product most often smoked, but during our time, marijuana, cocaine, heroin, and other drugs have often been smoked to allow the desired chemical to enter our bodies. Nicotine is the chemical that has led to the greatest addictions of our time, however, and we'll spend some time today discussing why smoking has caused so much death and destruction. It turns out that nicotine is very unique and potentially beneficial chemical. We humans are accustomed to using various chemicals to make us feel better, stay awake, sleep better, and so forth. For instance, many of us drink coffee in the morning to make us more alert. While coffee has some well-known and potentially serious side effects, most of us will agree that a couple of cups of coffee per day is not particularly harmful to us human beings. Nicotine, it turns out, has nearly the same effect on alertness as does caffeine. It clearly enhances awareness of what is going on in the world for the individual who's using it. In addition, nicotine uniquely causes relaxation of spinal ganglia and makes our muscles feel more relaxed and under control. It is therefore the only known chemical that causes both increased alertness and at the same time a relaxed feeling associated with better muscular control. Cocaine and other amphetamines cause us to have enhanced alertness and awareness, but they cause our muscles to be tense and on edge. The baseball pitcher who's using cocaine would be able to focus on the catcher's mitt, but he'd probably throw the baseball into the third base dugout. The pitcher using nicotine, however, would be able to focus on the catcher's glove and break off his curveball into the perfect spot. This may be the reason why many baseball players have put a little pinch of tobacco in their mouth while they're pitching. Chewed tobacco, of course, can cause its own poisonings in the form of various types of mouth cancer. And the disease in this case is not caused by the nicotine itself, but by the toxic products in tobacco leaves. In the same way, nicotine acquired by smoking cigarettes and cigars is not particularly toxic. But the smoke products inhaled with the nicotine are both acutely and chronically toxic. The combustion products of smoke, including tars and other chemicals, cause chronic inflammation of our airways, and then are absorbed into our blood, causing chronic inflammation of the cellular linings of almost all tissues in the body. Have you ever wondered why bladder cancer is 5 times more common in smokers than in non-smokers? The nicotine inhaled has no toxicity to the urinary bladder, but the various smoke products inhaled cause chronic irritation and poisoning of the cells lining the bladder. The list of malignancies related to combustion of products is huge, but an even greater problem is damage from these same products to the linings of our arteries, to our cartilages, and to our bones. The truth is that nicotine, which is the chemical that causes us to smoke, is not very toxic to us. But the inhaled smoke is. Millions of Americans have died of smoke exposure during the past couple of hundred years. Most, of course, have died of vascular disease like heart attacks and strokes and gangrene of their extremities. But millions more have died of malignancies, bone diseases, degenerative cartilage disease, and enhanced aging process. During the past couple of decades, nicotine has for the first time been available in gum, skin patches, and more recently in inhaled non-smoked products. Nicotine from these products still does what nicotine does, causes alertness and relaxation, but without the toxicity of the smoke. Our federal government is actually, at this time, looking at ways to subsidize the use of inhaled nicotine without smoke because of the marked expected reduction in death rates. Of course, only time will tell if that's a good idea. Nicotine also causes a more rapid pulse and mild high blood pressure. It is therefore associated with a rise in metabolic rate and increased calorie burning and lower body weight. Studies done many years ago showed that for each pack of cigarettes smoked per day, we can expect to burn about 215 more calories per day than we would have otherwise burned. This, of course, tilts our energy balance toward loss of body fat and is a reason that many smokers stay lean by smoking. Unfortunately, the tissue loss with nicotine exposure is not just fat, but bone and muscle as well. This is the reason that most smokers end up with significant osteoporosis and degenerative cartilage disease as well. It seems obvious that smoke exposure is one of the greatest external poisonings and causes huge losses of life and health each year. Not very far behind smoke exposure are other serious poisonings from ethyl alcohol and sedative hypnotic drugs. Our ability to ferment fruits, grains, and vegetables and other carbohydrates inexpensively has allowed us to have exposure to numerous products which we drink because of the pleasurable effects of ethyl alcohol on our nervous system. Getting buzzed is therefore experienced by more Americans in this generation than in those who came before them. Unfortunately, alcohol is as toxic or more toxic than smoke, but we as a culture have decided that its use is an adult choice and that the only restrictions on its use should be related to the age of the one who uses it. Thankfully, all of us do not become alcoholics with occasional or regular use of ethanol, but the chemical is nevertheless a human toxin and causes untold misery for many marriages, businesses, and families. We try the best we can to prevent automobile accidents, but the majority of deaths on our highways in our country are still related to ethanol. While there is a romantic mystique surrounding the drinking of wine at dinner or party, the fact remains that ethanol is a toxin to almost all human tissues. During my years working on a cardiac transplant service, I learned that over 60% of our first 200 cardiac transplants were for the treatment of hearts irreversibly damaged by something called alcoholic cardiomyopathy. Most Americans are not even aware that daily alcohol exposure more than doubles the risk of almost every malignancy known to man. This, unfortunately, is especially true of breast cancer, which is the most common malignancy of women throughout the world. Every major academic study ever performed has supported this information, but our relatively heavy use of ethanol by both men and women continues. The health hazards of ethanol are such, it would appear that we need shorter acting and less addictive sedative hypnotic agents than ethyl alcohol to make us feel buzzed. I doubt that we would see a solution to this health problem during my lifetime. But as the costs of healthcare continue to escalate, we will all have to take an honest, personal look at what we consume, how much we consume, and what toxic effects are consequently being affected upon our hearts, our livers, our pancreas, and our other organs. One of the confusions in this regard is that some researchers have published papers suggesting that drinking red wine is a life-prolonging behavior. While it is true that alcohol exposure increases HDL cholesterol levels, which are a predictor of longevity, the increase in malignancy risk with ethanol exposure would not seem to be worth the encouraging alcohol use to prevent vascular disease. I think we have many other strategies in this regard that are less toxic. Most of the studies suggest that better vascular health with increased alcohol exposure have been shown to be poorly done and lacking in scientific validity. We have lots of sedative hypnotic drugs that are less toxic than ethyl alcohol. All of them are available with prescriptions from physicians, and most of them allow us to feel much the same as we do when we drink alcohol. It seems unlikely, however, that they will replace ethanol as the drug of choice for Americans anytime soon. We move now to the third major source of external toxins that may diminish our health and longevity: prescription drugs and over-the-counter medicines. While everything we may pick up in a pharmacy is approved for sale by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, almost all of the prescription drugs and non-prescription agents may have substantial toxicity, either because of the wrong person, the wrong drug, or the wrong dosage. We're a drug-taking society. We have demanded a pill for almost every symptom, and pharmacological manufacturers have complied with us. The problem is that likely millions of individuals annually take medicines that provide some benefit, but may also cause terrible side effects or death. Some of the side effects are minor, but some may be life-threatening. The disclaimers at the end of our television advertisements for various so-called biologic agents are classic examples of this type of toxicity. The companies who make pharmaceutical agents are required to tell us that their product may cause illness or death. We, the consumers, however, have a tendency to believe that we will likely get all the benefits of a drug and none of the toxicity. Sadly, this is not how it always works. I could list hundreds of drugs that I have personally prescribed over my 50 years in medicine that have caused unacceptable side effects. What we need at this time in American medicine is intelligence on the part of consumers and humility and restraint on the part of providers. We should remember that every pharmaceutical agent has toxicity and that the toxic effects may be lethal. Our current concerns with narcotic agents and their toxicity is just the tip of the iceberg. We need an American public that looks for behavioral change and preventative measures rather than more drugs to address every one of our health problems. Each pharmaceutical agent prescribed interacts with others that may be prescribed, often in a negative fashion, and creates a new type of toxicity related to the combinations of drugs. The amount of illness and death related to this type of toxicity likely reaches into the millions in our nation. There's no easy solution to the problem, but better health education for consumers is the first step. Bottom line, learn what you're taking, be aware of what side effects it may cause, and listen carefully to your body. In our next video, we'll turn our attention to the internal sources of toxicity. I look forward to seeing you then.